In U1d4, we're going to talk about shutter speed as the next way to change how light gets into the CCD of a camera. Shutter speed is the amount of time that the shutter stays open. So the shutter in the camera opens to let in light, and then it closes. And shutter speed is simply how much time passed between the opening and the closing. Shutter speed is, the purpose of it is to control the amount of light that gets into the CCD, how much light gets in there, and the shutter speed is measured in seconds. Usually it's in fractions of a second. Generally, a shutter on a camera opens and closes very fast, and so we need to measure fractions of seconds. In this case, you're used to seeing that that quotation mark symbol as being inches, but we're going to use it in terms of time when we speak in camera terminology. So 2 quote equals 2 seconds. That would be 2 seconds of time. So a shutter speed of 2 seconds would be written as 2 quote mark. And 1/500, well, that's a 500th of a second. So the shutter speed varies between, well, some cameras can have the shutter open for a very long amount of time, and in photography you can even open the shutter for as long as you want to, an infinite amount of time if you're doing something like time-lapse. But in video production, we generally have fractions of a second for shutter speed. And a bigger number means more light. So if you have the shutter open for 2 seconds, obviously that's going to let in light for a longer amount of time. And a lower shutter speed means less light gets in there. So fast shutter speeds, the purpose of that is to freeze fast-moving subjects. So if you've got a subject that you're trying to shoot video of and it's moving quickly, you need a fast shutter speed to freeze that thing. Otherwise, you're going to get blur. Slow shutter speeds you have to use in low light conditions. If you're shooting with a little bit of light, you've got to use a slow shutter speed so that you have the shutter open long enough for some light to actually get in there and hit that CCD. If you open and shut it too close, too fast, nothing's going to get through and your image will be dark, it'll be underexposed. So the problem with these slow shutter speeds, of course, is you get blur. If you're shooting with a slow shutter speed, then any amount of movement gets recorded as an object being in several places at once, which is what blur looks like on a camera. So you want to try to avoid low shutter speeds if you can, slow shutter speeds if you can, because that produces blur. Faster shutter speeds are for sharper motion, and faster shutter speeds give you more flickery video. That is a byproduct of a fast shutter speed, is the video can appear to flicker a little bit. So the rule of thumb with shutter speed is use as fast a shutter speed as you can and use as much light as you can to help your camera get faster shutter speeds.